Welcome to The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Thursday, July the 2nd, 2020. On this episode, a message that I recorded just yesterday on July 1st. An important message that I think you should really stay tuned to. That's coming up next.
My name is Dan Barkoff. I'm a 2001 United States Naval Academy graduate. I'm an ex-Navy SEAL, currently an emergency room physician, and the founder of Veterans for Responsible Leadership. Months ago, Donald Trump learned that the Russians were paying bounties for dead American soldiers in Afghanistan. He chose to do nothing about it. Any commander-in-chief with a spine would be stomping the living shit out of some Russians right now. Diplomatically, economically, or, if necessary, with the sort of asymmetric warfare they're using to send our kids home in body bags. Mr. Trump, you're either a coward who can't stand up to an ex-KGB goon, or you're complicit. Which is it? Donald Trump is unfit to be our commander-in-chief, and that's worse than useless. I'm a pro-life, gun-owning combat veteran, and I can see Trump for what he is, a coward. We need to send this draft dodger back to his golf courses. The lives of our troops depend on it.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So you heard it right there. People all across the country are sounding the alarm over Donald Trump. He cannot remain in office beyond January the 20th of 2021. Everybody now is clear. Even the people who still support him are clear. This guy is a threat to national security here in the United States. He has often praised enemies like Russia, praised enemies like North Korea, praised enemies like Erdogan in Turkey, praised enemies all over the globe, and castigated allies like Theresa May in the UK, like German Chancellor Angela Merkel, like Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, like French President Emmanuel Macron. That is what Donald Trump has done over the last few years. Donald Trump sides with traitors, he sides with dictators, he sides with Nazis, he sides with racists, and he sides with the Confederacy. I think that anybody now who doesn't understand that is not living on planet Earth. I think it's very clear now that what you have in the White House is a clear and present danger. Over the last few weeks, we have heard and seen General Mattis, who used to be in the cabinet of Donald Trump, speak out against him, saying that he has divided the country and doesn't care about uniting Americans. It's obviously true. We've seen Mark Milley, a former Joint Chiefs of Staff, speak out, or current Joint Chiefs of Staff. We've seen different Joint Chiefs of Staff from the past speak out. We've seen former presidents speak out, President Obama. We've seen even the war criminal George W. Bush speak out against Donald Trump. We've seen former generals speak out against Donald Trump. We've seen Republican supporters who no longer support the Republican Party speak out against Donald Trump. There are conservatives who no longer support the Republican Party or Donald Trump speaking out against him. Donald Trump now is clearly a danger to the United States of America, and I think the American public knows that. Donald Trump has absolutely looked the other way while Russians offer bounties on the heads of American soldiers. This is treasonous behavior by Donald Trump. He knew it, he didn't care about it, he did nothing about it. What he did do, however, is respond by inviting inviting to the White House. If you can believe it, inviting to the White House, or at least inviting to join the G8, Vladimir Putin. He had 5 or 6 phone calls this year or last in succession after it was revealed, or at least after he had been briefed about the bounties. And I think the reason why Donald Trump is not doing anything to stop Russia is because this is a quid pro quo for Donald Trump to be helped back into office. That's what this is. He wants help from the Russians. So if it means that he can stay in power and stay out of jail for 4 more years, what will happen is that Donald Trump will allow Putin to get bounties on the heads of American soldiers in order to kill those soldiers, and in order for Donald Trump to then have some help from Russia to stay in power. We are closer now than we have ever been to a complete dictatorial takeover of the United States of America as we know it. And it's horrible enough that this country has already been taken over once before, when Native Americans had this country stolen from them, and they were genocided. Now we've got the people whose ancestors did those things trying to do, again, another takeover of the country through dictatorial means, fascist means, authoritarian means. Anybody who thinks that Nazis are very fine people is not someone who should be in charge in this country, even with the racism and the institutionalized racism that blankets this country. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger. It is essential that people understand that, and it's essential that people go and game plan to vote this November. I'm not talking about, go and vote for the obvious candidate, Joe Biden. I'm talking about what your strategy will be in terms of logistics. How are you getting to your polling station? What are you going to do if the polling station is closed? What are you going to do if there are people who are intimidating you while you are waiting in line to vote, particularly if you're black or brown or Asian or older or young? What is your strategy going to be? Do you have the phone number that I'm about to give you? 866-OUR-VOTE? What is your approach going to be to all of this? This is very important. Have you registered to vote yet? Have you checked your voter registration? Are you aware of the deadlines for registering to vote? Have you been checking your voter registration once a week, every week? What if you don't get your mail-in ballot? What if you don't get your mail-in ballot, the vote by mail ballot? What if you don't get that? Are you still going to go and vote? Are you going to vote in person? Are you going to be able to prove that you didn't receive it and tell the people that you didn't? Will you be able to re-register in time and vote on the day in person? You need to, if you don't know the answers to any of those questions, you need to find out the answers right now. We are now in July, the second half of the year. Now it's serious. We are just 4 months and 2 days away from the November 3rd, 2020 U.S. presidential election. This whole country now rides on this election. In fact, the whole world does. We have had someone in the White House who has allowed 130,000 people to die in this country of coronavirus because he didn't care about them, because he wanted to get reelected and didn't care about how many died, because if he knew about that, it might hurt him. It's very clear he does not care about anybody but himself. And now is the time for us to care about ourselves and this country and its future and where it's headed and our future generations of people, our families, our kids. We can't afford to be lazy. Even Republicans are saying wear masks. The vice president is saying wear masks. Even Trump is saying, well, it wouldn't be so bad if I wore one, I guess. You've got Confederate statues falling down. You've got Trump getting angry about that. You've got Trump worrying about, oh my gosh, a Black Lives Matter mural is going to be painted in front of Trump Tower. Oh my God, dearie old me. Why did you leave New York then, Donald? If you care so much about your stupid tower. You've got a guy who is tweeting out white power videos, retweeting them. You've got a guy saying that Black Lives Matter causes harm and is hateful. No mention, of course, of him retweeting white power. Surely that's not hateful, is it? Black Lives Matter is not about hate. It's about justice. It's about getting this country and the world to recognize that black people matter and their lives matter. Not just when it comes to the police, but when it comes to any walk of life. You must have a game plan, not in November, but now. Do not wait until November to figure out, well, how am I getting to the polling place? Well, is someone going to pick me up? Well, if I don't have a ballot or it's not correct and my ID doesn't match, what am I going to do? Well, am I going to be able to take time away from work? Well, am I going to early vote? Do not think about that in November. Start your plan now in July. Because the later you leave this, the more stressed and panicked you're going to be. And you'll make mistakes. Now is the time. Now is the time to get this done. If you have to wait online for 9 hours, do you have a plan? Do you have a deck chair to sit on while you're waiting in line? Do you have a cell phone that has a battery that's going to be able to last as long as it can for the time that you're going to be standing in line? Because make no mistake, if you're living in a black neighborhood or a predominantly brown neighborhood or a poor neighborhood, you're going to be standing. The chances are, and you're in a state controlled by Republicans, the chances are you are going to be standing in a long line come November 3rd. Make no mistake about it. Will you have a mask? Will you be doing social physical distancing? Will you be doing any of it? You need a game plan now. Will you have food? Will you have enough resources? Will you stand on that line and stay there no matter what? These are the questions you need to start having answers to. And as I say, do not wait till October or November to answer those questions. You need to take half an hour now, sometime in the month of July, or right now, I would say, and start to diagram out these scenarios. Because the Republican Party right now, according to Greg Palast, has stolen or is going to be stealing something like almost 17 million votes. When you add that to the number of people who have already died from this coronavirus, that is a major vote stealing operation by the Republican Party. Not to mention the Russians. The Russians are the least of this, by the way. They are only factoring in insofar as the treason that Donald Trump has committed already, quite frankly. And it's not an only, of course, it's much bigger than only. The Republican Party must be voted out across the board. Any party that allows a thief to abuse power and allow him to continue doing that and then allow 130,000 plus people to die in this country, coronavirus, is a criminal party and they must go. And I think they will go. But I urge you to stop paying attention to these polls that show Joe Biden leading by 12 and 10 and 8 and 7. National polls mean nothing, and these state polls mean nothing, quite frankly. Oh, in the battleground state of Michigan, Joe Biden leads by 7. And they said all this about Hillary Clinton 4 years ago, and then what happened? You cannot afford to trust polls. You must make sure you register to vote, contact other people and get them to register to vote, and tell them to check their voter registration once a week, every week through the end of October. Contact your local Secretary of State. Well, your state Secretary of State is the only Secretary of State in your state. Contact your county or local board of elections. Very important. Find out what your voting rules are. Find out what's going to be on the ballot this year in November. Go to your local website. Go to the Board of Elections website in your city or state. Look at the kind of ballot. Ask them, what kind of ballot are we going to have? What's that ballot going to look like? Will it be clear? Will we have the ovals next to the names of the candidates, or will the ovals be diagonally away from the candidate? Which oval will I be able to fill in or press or pluck or whatever you've got to do? You need to find out the answers to this now, because when you go into that voting booth in November, you are going to be anxious. It's going to be tense. Yes, I sound alarmist, but this is something that you really will have to come to grips with. You will find in some of these states, maybe not your specific state or where you're voting, but in a lot of states, there's going to be issues with voting machines. There's going to be machines that don't work. There's going to be machines that change your vote to something else. This is all about discouraging you. That's what they want to do, the Republicans. And what I'm trying to do is not discourage you. I'm trying to warn you ahead of time, which means you need to be prepared for this. So I urge you, and I urge you again, please take heed of what I'm saying. Start to act. Plan now. Here in July 1st, 2020. This time is going to fly. This time now, between now and November 3rd, is going to zoom by. Before you look around, forget July 4th. Forget July 4th. Before you look around, it will be Labor Day. You think I'm joking? Before you look around, it will be Labor Day. And then it will be just barely 2 months away. Less than 8 weeks away after that. You will need to have a plan now. I'm telling you, because the Republican Party is going to try its damnedest. In fact, it's already doing it, to steal votes and steal these elections. Mitch McConnell doesn't want election protection. He's delayed that bill. He's not even looked at it. The Senate this week, Republicans in the Senate stripped out a provision that would allow for the FBI to be notified about about foreign entities helping in the election campaigns. The Republicans aren't interested in things being legal. They want to steal. And that's what their job is, to steal and stay in power. Commit crime and stay in power. All of these indictments under Donald Trump's administration should tell you something. They should tell you something. These folks are criminals. They're in it for the grift. Donald Trump is in it for the grift, and he will kill people in order to make sure he stays in power. He will get these boogaloo boys and these right-wingers and these white racists to commit all kinds of crimes if it means he stays in power. There's going to be a lot of intimidation, voting-wise. And don't forget, the police aren't going to be the most helpful. What is your game plan? Given what we've already seen this summer, given what we've already seen over the last month and a half, what is your game plan, people? Do you right now on July 1st, 2020, have a game plan ready? Do you know exactly what you're going to be doing logistics-wise for November the 3rd? I'm not talking, once again, I am not talking about, well, it's going to be, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, I'm going to vote Democratic all the way down ticket. Yes. Those are all obviously important things, but that is not the game plan I am talking about. I am talking about the administrative stuff, the logistical stuff. Knowing where your polling place is, knowing if your polling place is closed without your notice. You suddenly go there, oops, and it's closed. And then you're not given an alternative polling place. What do you do? If you are given an alternative polling place, what do you do? What if the machine doesn't work? What do you do? 866-OURVOTE is one thing you do. You report this to your board of elections or your Secretary of State or both. This is very important. I'm going to continue to put these messages out here, and I'm going to do it often because we need to have this plan in place, everybody in this country, because I'm telling you, Russia is going to be the least of the issues here these next few months. The biggest issue of all is the Republican Party and what it is doing all across this country to end any notion of a democracy. That Navy SEAL that you heard at the beginning of this audio bit is absolutely right. Donald Trump is a coward, and this is someone who he has bought in with, Trump has, because Donald Trump knows that Putin can help him. Forgive his debts, maybe. Get him to stay in power for 4 more years or more. And make no mistake, if Donald Trump is able to steal this election again, he will not leave. Even if he loses, he will not leave quietly. He will eventually leave, but he won't leave quietly. If he steals it again, he will not leave after those 4 years are up, and this country will not be recognizable. You will have an abundance of swastikas in this country. You will have a lot more violence in this country. You will have white racists feeling very emboldened. And if you think that the Karen factor, those racist white women, will stop their parade, forget it. They will be crawling out of the woodwork. You will have 50 Karen videos a day. Now, if you like entertainment, maybe that's okay with you. But as far as I'm concerned, it's ugly, it's racist, it's disgusting. No matter who's doing it. And you're going to get a lot more violent attacks against black people, Asians, Latinx, transgender people, LGBT overall. You're going to get a lot more of that if this guy stays in office. You're going to get a lot more mass shootings. Make no mistake, I am not exaggerating. It's up to you. What kind of country do you want? Do you want a country where people are killing each other like this? Do you want a country where someone in the White House is tweeting out white power and saying that Nazis are very fine people? Is that the country you want? A country where 130,000 plus people in the country are dead because someone named Donald Trump refused to do anything about coronavirus? A country where Donald Trump looks the other way while the enemy country, Russia and Vladimir Putin, and the Russian intelligence agencies end up giving bounties to enemies of ours so that they can go ahead and kill American soldiers? That's the country you want to live in? Well, have at it. If you want that kind of country, you know who to vote for. But for the rest of us, it's obvious it's got to be Democratic votes all the way through, from top to bottom, Joe Biden on down. And it, more importantly than that, is about getting rid of Mitch McConnell from the Senate leadership, getting the Republicans out of there as a majority, holding on to the House, and local elections, make sure you put Democrats in there. But again, you've got to have a game plan before you even get to do all of this. Stay informed. Stay tuned to me. Daily, the podcast is The Politicrat. It is available on all platforms where you get your podcasts. Please stay tuned. I'm going to be doing many more of these, and I'm going to be checking up on you to make sure that you all are getting a game plan together. What is your game plan? Do you have a game plan to vote? And again, I'm not talking about Democratic or Republican. I'm talking about the polling place you go to. We've seen this. We've seen this in Milwaukee already. We've seen this in South Carolina already, Texas already, California already, parts of California in Los Angeles County. We've seen this in places like Kentucky, Georgia. The Republicans in these states are doing this. This is a test run. I guarantee you, this is a test run for November. This is a dress rehearsal for November. And I'm telling you, it's going to be like this, if not worse, in November with these polling places closed. Hundreds of them are going to be closed. Coronavirus or not. Please, now is the time to plan. Now. Omar Moore here, reminding you that you can get the Politicrat podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, please. And you can follow me on Twitter at @thepopcorn, REEL.